we can just wait a little bit for some people to
Where
join.
where are we streaming? Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, like I'm streaming on Facebook and on YouTube, on my YouTube as well. Like this platform can connect with, but I think even can connect with Instagram, but I'm not sure yet. I didn't use that yet.
Awesome, man.
So, bro, yeah,
So
it's funny because yeah, we never really spoke. You got into the group, right? Like not so much time ago.
yeah, exactly. No, we haven't. Yeah, so you've been like you're a dating coach, yeah?
Yeah, I mean that's how I started, and that's what was my main focus. But now, yeah, I'm expanding much more beyond just dating, and
Yep.
one of the main teams, I think, definitely what you teach is definitely one of the most important teams that uh, make the biggest difference in people's lives when people actually like have like a vision or a purpose. They're just not lost in the
Mm,
short term gratification you know
yeah, definitely. Yeah, like chasing like validation and shit.
well, yeah, that's yeah, I mean that's pretty much most human beings on this planet. We all chasing somehow validation, even in the most subtle ways. But yeah, so maybe already have some people joining. So maybe you can start by introducing a little bit about yourself, your journey, how got into coaching, and
Yeah, awesome,
yeah.
man. Yeah, so I'm a purpose coach. So I help people to bring purpose into their lives and to overcome their limiting beliefs and boldly chase after their dreams. And I got into that because for many years, I struggled with myself to overcome things like procrastination, mental health problems, and shit like that. And then, when I finally busted through that and figured out ways to overcome these problems, I felt an overwhelming feeling to want to share and help people with that. And and I really feel now that I'm doing that, it feels like my calling, and there's no better feeling in the world for me than when I help people to overcome those limiting beliefs and start fucking smashing their goals.
Nice. So what do you think for you was the shifting moment for you to like, the moment that really clicked that I was like, I need to do something, I need to go after my purpose in life. I think that could be very relevant. you know?
Honestly, do you know what it was for me? I just got fucking bored of living down here, just living small. You know what I mean? Living as my small self. And it just got to a point where I was so fucking bored of just the same shit over and over again, the same problems, the same procrastination, the same excuses to myself. And, and it comes to a certain point where the fear that you're facing of, fear of failure, imposter syndrome, all these fears that we have, all of a sudden when I realized just how fucking sick I was of living the same life over and over again, I was just like, it just made those fears, it just gave me that, like, it's like, fuck it, I'd rather go head on into these fears than to sit around for another year, like just fucking doing nothing and just languishing in fear.
Yeah, that's so true though. Like I feel like that's where most people like actually fucking wake up is like when they're tired of like just so much fucking pain. Because like, I feel like that's until someone is not didn't suffer enough or didn't feel like their current situation is like unbearable, people tend to be like, oh, I can still survive in this shittiness. So it's good that a lot of people are waking up and like realizing like this there's so much more to life than just like fucking like a lot of people praise too much the gods of certainty and safety and being in the pack and fitting in, and it's just like there's no really meaning to that. In like, what kind of life is that really, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I mean, and some people just they don't really have that. They don't even really want to break out of it. You know, they're happy just fitting in, blending into the crowd, and that's cool. But then there are like the other people who desperately want to break out, live an extraordinary life, but they struggle to do it, and those are the sorts of people, obviously, that I love to work with. How about you, man? Like, what was like your journey into coaching?
Yeah. So yeah, for me personally, I actually got into this like similar to what you described. I was just like I got into meeting strangers and approaching strangers, and that's how I got into like the personal development stuff. And like I
Mm,
was like a very very art case kind of guy, and I guess that's why I just was tired of my existence, because I was just like playing video games all day and like just masturbating and doing nothing at all, just being like a fucking wreck, and I was just like tired of life that way. And yeah, for me it was, I think for me it was like what got me into my purpose was that I didn't overblown what I needed to achieve. I kind of like made it in such a small steps, like so tiny steps every day, that was like doable for me, but wasn't too much that I would just like become overwhelmed and give up. And so for me, it was like I started this journey by talking with old people in the street, like asking directions and like basic questions like this. And I was just terrified of that as well. Like I was like, I have my phone.
really? Wow.
I have my phone in my pocket, and I'm like, I'm asking the time. Like, I hope they don't see they have the phone. And I was just like so paranoid.
Wow.
And it's just it's just crazy to see that I was yeah, I remember walking down the street, and like if someone laughed down the street, I always thought they were laughing at me. For some
Mm,
reason, like the
mm,
thought I was always like paranoid with what other people think of me in like a most ridiculous way that you could think. Like I was always like, I remember going to college classes and shit. I was just going on the corner and I was like, I hope nobody talks to me. Like I would just put like this thing like this, like go to the class like this, like hiding in a corner like this, I hope they don't talk to me. you know
really?
yeah,
Oh man.
that was like that was crazy, because I was terrified of other people and just in general social situations. I just wanted to like hide myself in my room and play some Call of Duty all day, and that was like my my safe zone. So
Mm,
yeah, and and getting to the point of like just I fuck this shit kind of point, and I even contemplated suicide to a lot of moments, but yeah, thank God that I decided to go in the other direction and just like burn the boats, start like going out and putting myself in uncomfortable situations. And yeah, like the thing is like just small steps makes like we all want the things right now, like the transformation, the results, the purpose. But yeah, like the thing that made difference for me was that I took just very small steps. I didn't expect too much. I just expect a little bit better every day, and then over time that just adds up massively and makes like huge difference. And it's crazy how simple it is.
100%, man. I can definitely relate to, your experience with like social anxiety and stuff. Like maybe not to the same level as you, but it's crazy that like you turned like, what was like such a weakness in your life, and then you like turned it around and like doubled down on it and made it a strength. And I like that's really cool. And that's something that I've always tried to do in my life. Like take like a negative, something that's like fucking me up, and then find like some way to like turn it into a strength. And for me, like the biggest example of that for me was like I was like a massive overthinker, just like in my head like all the time, and like, similar experiences to you, like just assuming if anything was going on that it was like bad about me, and and just like inventing all these stories in my head and just constantly being stuck in my head. And even like in social situations, like even just like with my friends and stuff, always just like thinking, about, oh, how like perceived, blah, blah, blah. Like not just being 100% present in the moment, just being myself. I would always be like, I'd be in a conversation and then that would like spark a thought. And then I'd be like, follow that thought. And I wouldn't even be in the conversation. Then all of a sudden they'd say something. I'd be like, oh, wait, what? Like, and that was a huge thing. And then obviously when I was like by myself, just spiraling my thoughts, like negative thoughts and shit. And yeah, so I was just like thinking and thinking, but then I found a way to like turn it into a strength because I kind of, eventually I sort of like found a way. I mean, I had to find a way to control my mind because my mind was just like going crazy. And I had to like find a way to control it, and I started like meditating and stuff like that. And, and so then if I'm going to like have all these thoughts, at least I'm going to make them positive thoughts. And yeah, and then from that position, and then I read lots of books, heaps of like self-development stuff and just like put my brain to work. And then after like years of that, just reading like heaps of self-development, meditating and things like that, all of a sudden I realized that I just like acquired, and I'd always been like interested in like psychology and stuff. And at some point I kind of realized after absorbing all this like self-development content that I'd become like almost like an expert on it. Like there wasn't anything that I didn't know. And then I was just like, fuck, like I want to like share this information now. So all those times of like overthinking, like being stuck in my room, just like mulling over thoughts, now like that actually is like turned into like a strength for me now. Like I turned that negative into a strength. And I think it's like important strategy that like anyone can do in their life is like find that bit where you're getting like fucked up in life, that weakness, and find a way to like turn that into a strength.
What do you think was for you the main catalyst for you that created that allowed you to go and turn that into a strength? Like, what was the main game changers for you in that? What do you think?
I think it's always, yeah, it's like making big moves, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And probably one of the biggest moments for me was when I did my skydiving course. So like got qualified to jump solo out of airplanes. And I was fucking freaked out by that, but
Nice.
and it was like a struggle for me to get through and finish that course. But I had to like think of like strategies to like overcome those fears. And I realized that I was becoming identified with the fear. I was like attaching my personality to the fear, and I was making these like thoughts and feelings, I was making them real. But I realized like you can just like detach yourself from those fears and realize that fear is just false expectations appearing real. And anyway, so then after I'd overcome my fear, and then I'm just loving skydiving. And then all of a sudden, just like all my other fears just fucking melted away. I'd been thinking about starting a YouTube channel for months. And as soon as I came home from finishing my skydiving course, in fact, I didn't even finish the course. I got like halfway through it, and then we had to go home for a while because there was some bad weather, and I didn't even come back for a while because I was just so busy, just like creating YouTube content, working on some other projects. I was working on like e-commerce stuff back then, and I was just fucking just throwing myself into it, where before I had all this resistance, all this fear. By overcoming that that real life physical fear of skydiving, it just like all the other fears just melted away.
That's fucking amazing, actually. Like, it's funny because I did skydiving one time, and it's like I
Yeah.
remember because it was even before I started this journey at all, and because I was already like having all these suicidal thoughts, I actually wasn't afraid of skydiving. I was like, I hope the parachute doesn't open, you know.
Yeah. If you like, if you don't mind me like going into it, because I think it's like important to be able to like talk about these things.
Yeah,
And
sure.
like mental health awareness and stuff. When you were like having like suicidal thoughts and stuff, what was it that like stopped you? What were the thoughts that made you like, okay, nah, actually, I'm not going to kill myself? What like turned you around?
Yeah, I remember like I had those suicidal thoughts, but then there was like I remember like I didn't have ever a girl liking me or something. Like I had like girls that I liked in school, but I always like the friend zone guy, and the guy
Mm,
that was bullied and was like isolated from everyone. I was always like I didn't really have much friends apart from the nerds like me, and there was one time that there was one girl that was a friend of a coworker or whatever that like actually I start like texting with her. We actually exchanged contacts for some reason, and I saw that she was like into me somehow, and I was like mind fucked by that. I was like, holy shit, a girl likes me. Oh my god. And and that was like kind of like the hope, right? Like so I had
mm,
like hope on there. It's like, okay, maybe I have some hope in life. Maybe I'm not gonna die a virgin or something. And and yeah, like I was texting with her, but eventually like I became very needy, and
mm,
she stopped responding, and like yeah, she found me like weird, and I was very weird. And because like that was like the moment for me where I just disrupted. I was like, fuck me. Like I got really pissed off because of that moment that she stopped texting me back, because I was like, that was my only chance and I fucked it up. So that was kind of like I got really angry, but at the same time, that anger kind of elevated my state, if you know what I mean. Like I felt angry, but if I felt like I was in apathy, right? So anger, it's like getting up in a scale of energetically speaking. So I felt more energized with that anger that came to me. And yeah, that was like the moment where I just fucking got like just enough of this shit. And but yeah, like because I felt heightened, I didn't feel like suicidal depressed. I felt like angry. That kind of really helped me to go in the other direction instead of going into the suicidal direction, if that makes sense. Yeah.
it does, man. Do you know like the uh Dr. David Hawkins like levels of consciousness?
Levels of energy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's right. Like anger is like it's a better state, yeah, to be in than like depressed and apathy because there's like energy there in anger. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's like that force, and then you can like use that anger to kind of push yourself maybe into courage. And then from like courage, now you're kind of like elevated up, and you're in a better position for sure. Or
Hmm.
even pride, like anger can like push you into pride, and then like again that's like better than being like apathy and shit. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's it's really interesting, man.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people, what I feel is like they are like always in this state of like either apathy and then go into fear, sometimes into anger, but then they judge themselves because they're angry. They judge their anger and then go down again to fear
Uh,
or to apathy. So, but I think for me it was just like I didn't judge my anger. I actually used it as fuel. And yeah, that was one of my biggest fuels in my first year to like that was the fuel of my journey. And yeah, and then later on actually became very toxic, but it was really helpful. First I just got fucking like I just started going out every day and like really pushing myself and like beating myself up. Like I remember like talking so bad at myself, like you fucking bitch, you fucking don't do this, you're fuck, like. And then I just, but that really, I mean, that can be very helpful for a lot of people. So a lot of people like feel like maybe getting angry is like something bad, you know, and that they don't feel that, or they repress their anger. I have clients that do that. Like they have a lot of anger, they get triggered, but every time they get triggered and get angry, they kind of judge it and go back down instead of using that to go up, you know?
yeah, totally, man. I'm glad you said that because like I want to say it as well. Like so many people like want to shame people, like, for being angry when they're like really down and out, in those low points in life. But, and shame people for like using anger as that fuel to get their life on track. But when you're on rock bottom like that, you know, you got to use what you can, you know, and you know, and you know, clearly like it worked for you, and you know, that's something that's very real. You know, it's better than sitting around and doing nothing.
Yeah, it's like it's I feel like it's about it's really like it's not really about what it's the way it's perceived. It's just like what works. And for a lot of people going from apathy, they can't jump into courage from lower, fear and stuff like that, so they gotta go through some anger. And that's okay. That's just like a tool that you can use to elevate yourself. And I always talk about that. In calls in general, is like people are trying to think how to live their lives, but they only actually can change their lives if they change their state, because their thinking only always corresponds to how they feel. So if you
Yeah.
always try to use the same thinking that got you where you at right now in your life, that thinking will just forcing where you at. It's not gonna give you new thoughts. So to get new thoughts, you need to change your state. You need to elevate your state. Something that I did was like working out, like pushing myself. I always felt better. I always felt like clear, more clear, and had a better thoughts.
Yeah, man, like it was such a huge discovery for me. It was one of the turning points for me, like healing my like mental health issues, was reading Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins, and learning about the levels of consciousness, because kind of I realized then that, because before I was trying to chase happiness, right? And the thing about chasing happiness is that the more that you focus on wanting happiness, that's like a negative experience, because you're focusing on the lack of happiness in your life. And so the more that you like focus on wanting to be happy, it's a negative experience. It's like the sadder you make yourself, you know, like the harder it is to attain. But the big shift for me was when, like, rather than focusing on trying to be happy, I just started to focus on raising my vibration. And like you said, exercising, like being healthy, you know, and anything I could do to raise my vibration, you know, is moving my body a lot, and watching more, you know, high vibration content, avoiding low vibration content, that sort of thing. I was able to like raise my vibration, and then the result of changing your vibration is that you feel better and you feel happy, you know, and you got more serotonin and oxytocin, like all that shit. So I think it's like super important, and it's what, you know, like I help, you know, anyone now who's like struggling with their mental health. Like I try to explain to them, like, don't focus on trying to be happy, try to focus on raising your vibration.
So I have a question about that. So how did you like, because when someone is like in low vibration, they kind of just resonate with low vibration things, right? It's like you just attract those things to you. So what allowed you to start watching content that resonates with maybe like a vibration that maybe at the start you weren't completely aligned with, if that makes sense, so that you needed to elevate yourself to that, to
Mm.
a
Well, I
vibration.
mean, I think it's more was in like the exercise side of it. So if I was feeling in a low vibration, I'd just be like, go for a walk, you know, or go for a workout. And I mean, that's obviously the best, you know. But what I also noticed was that, you know, in like, you know, binge watching like certain shows, I started to notice that some were very low vibration. You know, like shows which had like a lot of like violence, like drug use, breaking the law and stuff. Um, yeah, like things like that. I found like that like brought me then down into like a low vibration, and then that would lead you to like, you know, to want to like masturbate and stuff like that, and like, you know, keep you that, yeah. So sometimes like the content that you're watching on your phone, and even like on Instagram, if you just got lots of babes on your feed, you know what I mean, and then that gets you like, and then you like get aroused, and then that leads you over to Pornhub, and it's like this cycle that like draws you down to like low vibration. And yeah, and it was just like, go for a walk if I'm feeling in low vibration, like, and then I've got like a baseline level, you know, and then if I'm gonna like because this was like COVID. I was like going through all this at COVID, so I wasn't working. There was nothing to do. You know what I mean? And so yeah. But then it was just like, okay, find something that's like at a higher vibration, so like a comedy or something like that. You know, watch a comedy or something like that, which is going to be a higher vibration, or some YouTube videos or something like that.
I think that's fucking massive. Like, for a lot of guys, for a lot of people, if where they currently at, the circumstances, the people they have around them, reinforces where they at, right?
Mm,
Like, let's say your family members, your friends, they probably not high vibration people, because that if they were, then you already been a high vibration person as well. So it's you kind of like in this context and circumstances and scenario that doesn't really help you. Like it actually pulls you, kind of pushes you down in a sense. And so
totally.
yeah, for me it was like watching. I remember back in when I started, like I immersed myself in the old videos from RSD. Like there was like these 3 hour videos, like the truth about success, and I would just like watch that for like 5 hours after I went out for talking with people. I watched that for 5 hours. I would just live in that world and like not interact with my parents, anyone. I would just like absorb, like immerse myself in that and just completely forget everything, everyone else, and everything else that wasn't helping me. And like
Mm,
I had to cut a lot of friends like that I had from back in school that weren't like, some of those friends actually bullied me in school, and I tried to like appease them so that they stop bullying me. So that was my friends, quote unquote. But yeah, you have to learn as well how to, like, what kind of people are going to be beneficial to keep in your life, and a lot of people that you probably already have in your life, you kind of have to kind of part ways a little bit, or like give some space, you know.
mm, definitely, man. Definitely. Um, I'm really curious, man, as to like what exactly, what kind of, like, what's your thesis? Like, what's the focus of what you're teaching, like the guys that you're working with at the moment?
Yeah, so what I really love to do is to really understand where someone is at, and then apply tools that really can accelerate the transformation uh, at the fastest rate. And for me, I think meeting women as the main thing that I taught before was, for me, was like the main catalyst for me to transform so quickly. And so I know that there is a lot of potential to have huge transformations when you expose yourself constantly to your insecurities, to your fears,
Mm,
to your biggest fears, and all that. And you can
in-
use those catalysts, or those situations as a catalyst to heal yourself, to heal all the parts of you that you feel like are like all the lack and all these things. So just like getting rejected a lot just teaches you how to love yourself, you know, because you're not relying on anyone else to love you or the woman to love you. You just love yourself regardless of what happens. And
Interesting.
of course, use or bro.
Hey, man. Hey, Diogo.
Yeah. Sorry, bro. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
You
was
got you.
that was that your internet or my internet?
Uh, well, I'm not sure because you appear to me as one bar and I'm two bars. So, but yeah, now I think it's back.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that unfortunately, a lot of men like use the talking with women from the wrong place and then try to compensate for their insecurities and try to manipulate, and that's not really what I want. Like I don't that there is a lot of that out there, but that's not really what I want to help guys with, because I want to do what I applied on myself to become more self-aware, because like there is no better way to get like real life feedback from a woman that doesn't know you, and you can take that feedback and grow in self-awareness and being more honest with yourself about like where you're weak, where you can be much better, where you can be much more outgoing, much more funny, much more so many things. It's like it's goes can go down the rabbit hole, you know.
Totally. Yeah, for sure, man. That's cool. That's cool.
So yeah, like the only thing is now I during the COVID I went so much deeper into the spiritual path,
Yeah.
and start seeing that, actually seeing my journey from looking backwards. I can see how I went through all those levels of energy, we can call it that way, or we went through all that process, and I can see very clearly where the path is taking me, right? And so that's very something that I can really help my clients with, is that I can only not take them to just meet women and have meaningful relationships, but actually take them much further in their path of their spiritual, their growth, their internal growth.
Mm. Yeah, that's great, man. Where does so obviously like yeah, you teach like conscious dating. So what's like the where does that come into your teaching? Like what's the difference between you and just like a normal like dating coach?
Yeah, I think that's the main difference is, I think the regular coach guy would be like, I'll do what women like, and like okay, do this, right? I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, no, actually women or everyone else in your life, but women as well, are like a mirror, right?
Mm.
And it's more about taking responsibility for your own bullshit and exposing yourself, exposing the bullshit that you have, the bunch of bullshit that you've been telling yourself, about others, about women, about everyone in general, all this conditioning, all these narratives that you grow up with that are not real, and just coming face to face with that, and then becoming so much more responsible for everything in your life. And I think that, like, women are like the microcosmos of the universe that will tell you like when you're fucking being a little bitch, when you're not being taking having boundaries, and with other people, and show you how you want it to be you deserve to be respected and all that. And it's like it's growing yourself, and like kind of removing all these tendencies for validation seeking, and all these tendency that we have to, to comfort. It's like it's exposing all of that in this exercise. It's exposing all of it, and then like I still see so many people like with those validation. I think validation is like one of the biggest topics like I could talk about forever, because it goes so deep, this thing with with human beings, like the validation seeking tendency that we have is like goes so deep. And when you expose yourself to rejection over and over, and you get rejected so many times, like you no longer are seeking for that validation, because you can't, because you just can't, because you can't stay in this journey, right? By If you keep trying to get validated, you're just going to get annihilated, right? So that's why a lot of guys can't really stay in too long, because they're still trying to validate their current self. They're trying to validate who they are right now, instead of creating a new version of themselves.
Yeah, man, totally. And the thing about like the whole concept of like chasing validation is that like you're chasing something like you're chasing like feelings of love and acceptance and worthiness in other people. But the thing is, only you can give it to yourself. So it's like it's going to be a never ending it's going to be a never ending race if you're constantly chasing something that you can give to yourself. So yeah, like eventually you just got to realize that, hey, like I got to give that shit to myself. And for me, like even recently I noticed there was like an element of that, like in the way like I was going about seeing girls. And what I did, like I just like took a month off dating, like straight up, and just like, you know what, I'm not going to focus any energy towards like women whatsoever. And I'm just going to like focus on me and focus on like giving that love to myself. And it was like so powerful for me, man. Like, and now like the month's over, now I'm just in this position where I don't like need anything at all from women, you know. So I'm like more focused on my own goals and on my own purpose of, you know, putting in the work and showing the commitment and showing up for my clients, that it's gonna take like my absolute like dream girl in order for me to like even just like divert my attention enough to like chat her up and ask her out on a date. But if I'm just like, you know, I might have a little scroll through the apps every now and then, but and I might match some people, but I can't be bothered to like start conversations unless there's something that like really strikes me about them and like, oh yeah, this girl looks really cool. Then it's just like I just don't need it in my life because my life is full with my own shit going on.
That's so powerful. Like, and bringing back to the conversation about purpose, is that if your purpose is women, then you're gonna give a really hard time to
Mm,
do anything, right? But when you do, like you give the example, when you have that purpose that is beyond yourself and beyond any pussy that you can get, then like your focus is not on the women, it's on where you're going. So you automatically, like a lot of guys when they use techniques to like not look needy or whatever, right?
mm,
It's more of like, no, instead of using techniques to not be needy or not look needy, what about like actually not being needy because you have better shit to do, right? You have a
yeah.
purpose in your life and you have other things that are more relevant than a girl, and that makes you very attractive. Like when you have that, like when a woman sees that you are going after something and she's not your main focus of her, she's not your main focus in her life, in your life, then she get really attracted and aroused by you because she's like, oh, a man, actual man, there's fucking something beyond, getting girls.
Fucking oath, man. Like I think it's a quote which goes, every man needs he needs a battle to fight. What does he need? He Every man needs yeah, a journey. Yeah, he needs an adventure to have, a battle to fight, and a beauty to rescue. You know, and but like the important thing is like having that adventure and like having that battle. And another way of like phrasing that is like having, you know, a purpose in your life, something that you're working towards, and ideally something that's like bigger than yourself as well. I mean, sure, it's cool if you're like getting that bag, like chasing that money, like yeah, sure, like that's better than nothing. But even like what makes you even more attractive is when you've got that side to you where you're trying to make a difference in the world, you know, trying to be the change that you want to see in the world. And I think not only, I mean, me personally, I don't think there's anything more rewarding than that, but there's also nothing more attractive to a woman than a man who's trying to change the world.
Yeah, and when you start thinking like that, like becoming more of service to other human beings in your life, a lot of our problems in general is that we are so focused on ourselves that we got like so absorbed in our own problems that we forget that there is there is such a like a universe out there, like that we make it ourselves such the center of the universe, like we are so important, right? But when you start taking that focus and put it onto other people and like how to serve them and how to help them, that automatically makes you less miserable because you're not so focused on yourself. You're focusing
Yeah.
on how you can serve other people. And when it comes down to women, a lot of men, they still believe that they need to learn techniques or manipulation is that because they're still thinking about how to serve themselves. Because the moment you think about how to serve the best interest of the woman that you're talking to, things things happen naturally. Like you don't need uh, to learn how to manipulate anyone when you really want the best for them.
Indeed. Yeah.
We have some guys here. I don't know, guys, if you have some questions as well for us.
Mm.
Some questions about purpose and just in general, if you have something you're going through in your life right now. I think COVID like really gave us like a time to reflect and like be like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? And
Why don't you tell us all about like maybe like your journey, with I guess like into like I guess like sort of like pick up and stuff and like into approaching women and stuff. Like have there been like any crazy like experiences and stories that you like got yourself into?
oh yeah.
Anything, maybe something PG you can tell us.
Well, I mean, I always share this story because I think it was one of the biggest, I guess, realizations for me because there's a big period where I was really obsessed with meeting women and, one night stands and all that. And that was like
Mm,
a very compulsive obsession to me. And I was just chasing and saying like, okay, maybe the next one will make me happy. Maybe the next one, the next one, the next one. It just goes like, and what I start realizing was that I start like every time I would get like a girl and have sex, I was just like feeling more empty. That's what I
mm,
know. Like I felt more like it was like meaningless. It was like I sounds like bad, but like after I came, I was just wishing the girl would disappear. I was just like feeling so fucking, I don't know, miserable. And yeah, I remember one time and wait, some guy asked a question. How do you shift your purpose from women and their validation to yourself?
mm. That's a good question. And it's about finding, your purpose, finding that thing that's important to you, and then just throwing yourself into it, and just maybe even like taking a break off girls for a while and just throwing yourself into that, and realizing, because what you're getting is like you're getting a hit, right? You're getting like a dopamine hit every time you like message a girl and she like messages you back. You're getting like a dopamine hit, or even every time you like log on to like Pornhub, like you're getting a fucking crazy like dopamine hit. And when you're doing that, and when we have like dopamine from our phone, all this shit, like there's no desire, there's no want to go after your purpose, to chase something big, like a huge goal in your life. So it kind of, you've got to sort of just like try to just block everything else out, find that thing that you really want in life. And usually that aligns with like your passions, like what are you passionate about, and then what's like a change that you want to see in the world, and then try to combine those two into like something. And then preferably if it's something that you can get paid to do as well, and because that's the best way to like make your purpose, make your passion your job, because you're never going to be able to throw yourself more into it. And then once you start like going after that and taking little steps and having little successes along that path, all of a sudden then you're going to get like addicted to that feeling, and you're going to realize like how amazing that feels. And yeah, I mean, essentially you got to replace. It's hard to just cut something out cold turkey, but if you can like take something away and then replace it with something else positive, then you're going to be in a better position to do that. And once you start taking those steps, taking action, you're going to become a different person. And all of a sudden, you can create a situation where, women are starting to chase you. And that's where you want to be. If you look at successful men who are like doing things in the world and living on their purpose, and living high achieving in life, they don't have to go chase girls. They've got like, you know, girls like in their DMs. So anyone who's any young man really, like, stop chasing girls, go and chase your purpose, you know, go and chase success, and then let the women chase you. That's the best way.
Yeah, I think it's like I have like an approach where like if I say yes, follow the 100% follow your purpose and your passion, and you were saying about making money, is like a lot of people have certain things that they're passionate about, but they believe that they will never be able to make that financially rewarding enough for them to go into it. But I always advise like, okay, get a 9 to 5 job as you're already probably doing it, and then do that passion thing and build it on your time of work. And even if it takes long time, if it's really something that you're passionate about, you're going to do it anyways. So you're better off to keep doing it until it starts getting you financial results, and then you can slowly shift from the 9 to 5 into doing what you love, regardless what it is. So I think
Mhm.
definitely what's more important is that you change your state. And I think that's when you're talking about consciousness, is that a lot of people are like, okay, but I have all these options and I don't know which one to pick. And I say, okay, you'll never know the outcome of either of those. You will never know until you go fully into one of them and then see what happens, right? So that's the thing. You have to really go into it, and the most important thing is having that state change, and really changing your state through the process, because that state change is what allows you to start becoming more clear and thinking more clear and being more process oriented, instead of being so dopamine and like instant gratification oriented, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone asked you what's your target audience,
Yeah.
Gus?
My target audience basically is anyone who's looking to chase big dreams, like do big things in their life, but they're not sure how to start. You know, they're facing that fear. But I like to work with people who really want to like go after something, and they're looking for that thing to really throw themselves into, and maybe they're not quite sure what that should be, and I can help them find that thing. Or maybe they already know what it is and they need someone to help them overcome their fears and take those first steps. But I don't have a specific, you know, age group that I'm particularly targeting. It's just anyone really who's ready to take that step and really dive and throw themselves into something and fully commit and live a life of purpose.
Nice. So, like, what would you, would you describe like your, uh, like, what's the fundamental things that you would see like from the people that you already have some experience with? Like, what are the main things that people struggle with, and what kind of tools and things that you teach them to actually like overcome those barriers, those limitations? Yeah.
I think like the biggest thing for me is people identifying with their fears and their challenges. And that's like a huge thing, and the various fears and the challenges that they're facing, they differ from person to person, but the root problem with all of them is that they're identifying with them, they're focusing their attention on the problems, and they're spending all their mental bandwidth focusing on the problem, saying, oh, I have this issue, I have this issue, and they're telling themselves over and over again, like, oh, I want to do this, but no, I have this issue. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, the more you focus and you give attention to these issues and these self-limiting beliefs, you know, like, oh, you know, I have social anxiety, so I don't want to like put myself out there, or I, you know, I'm a procrastinator, you know, and therefore like I don't do anything. And the more we like tell ourselves these stories, the more we make them true. And so the biggest thing I try to get people I work with to realize is that stop identifying, stop throwing your mental capacity into focusing on what's wrong with yourself, and start like just figure out like, okay, this is where I want to go, this is what I need to do in order to get there, and then start focusing on that, start focusing on what the first steps are to take, and just taking that action. And as you start to do that, you take a little step, you start to retrain your brain, and then all of a sudden your brain is more starting to get focusing on these positive things, and you start to about all the issues and the problems. And whenever and I get my clients to get into meditation, so they have that control over their mind. And there's always that moment, right? We have these like moments where we feel the fear, whatever that fear is, it comes up, right? And you have a choice. You can surrender to the fear, and you can let it beat you, and you can go back to your coping mechanism, or running your default programs of vegging out, watching porn, whatever it is, however it is you cope when you're triggered, whatever negative action you take when that fear comes up. But what I get them to do is, when that fear comes up, you're going to have a story ready. So the fear has stories. It says you're not good enough, you're not worthy, but you're going to be ready this time with a story to say that actually, no, I am worthy. I know I am, and I'm going to prove it right now. I'm going to take a positive action. So it's all about conditioning yourself to take positive action. And once you do that a few times, it starts to become the new habit.
I think that's what you mentioned there about like, I think that's the idea of becoming aware of all these mechanisms in your mind, like the thoughts, that the way they appear and those feelings, and like the doubt, and like becoming like, I even say to my clients, like write down, like let's say write down all these things, that those mechanisms that that always kind of similar and always cyclical and always kind of like repetitive, and you write them down on a page, and it's like, okay, this is not me, this is just a thoughts, like this is the thought that I have, this is the feeling that I have, but it's not me. And then that makes it kind of creates a kind of like a distance, like a distance, like I'm not that. But when it appears, then it's not, you're not sucked in right away into that and like completely identify with it, and then you have some distance, and you can, and then from that place, becoming more self-aware about that, then you can already kind of put things in your life, some mechanisms and leverages, so that you can counter all already the things, this mechanism that is you're gonna show up eventually, all these doubts and all these things. And because I feel like people, they think that it's just gonna be like, okay, I want to change, let me do this, but they forget that there is a old programming from before, from all your life before, that will not be like happy about that. That will be like, no, that this can't be that way. Like I want to not die. The old programming doesn't want to die, so it's gonna give you all the resistance, all the mechanisms to not allow you to go to the new program, the more healthy program. And these programmings that we have, they don't really care about your happiness. They just care about their own survival, their own maintenance, right? And so
Yeah.
it's more than just trying to change. Is when you go for change, being aware of the old programming and how it functions and what kind of mechanisms it has. And then when you're more aware of that, then you're gonna be more likely to get out of that, be able to push through that bullshit.
Totally. And what was I going to say? I lost it. I had something to add to that, but I lost it, man.
No worries, bro. It's been great. It's been a
Yeah.
great conversation.
Yeah, has anyone
The
got any more questions?
what?
I was just seeing if anyone watching has any more questions.
Yeah.
Questions are
Guys,
fun.
take it away. Already some people took initiative, so if you guys have more questions, we're getting closer to the hour mark. I think that usually like it's a good time for these kind of live streams.
Mm.
So if the guys have some more questions about what Bruce does and about what you're going through, in your life right now? Wait, since when you're doing this and how much do you make per month? Okay, that's interesting. Since when are you doing this and how much are you making per month? Okay, I don't know if you want to answer that, all of that, but yeah.
I'm not gonna like go into like my salary, no. But I started doing this like at the start of the year.
Nice.
I'm not someone. Yeah, I'm not gonna like be bragging or anything like that. Yeah, that's personal. But yeah,
Yeah.
but I love doing what I'm doing, and that's the most important thing, that you love doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's
And if
that's the thing is you just started right in the beginning of this year, but that's the most powerful thing is that a lot of guys they want to start their passion or their business coaching or whatever, but they're always like, oh, I'll only be ready like I don't feel ready yet or all this shit. But like I always share is that like you're never gonna be more ready than right now, and it's only right now. So you if you want to be good at coaching anyways, like you gotta get experience under your belt to start uh, developing your skills as a coach. So if you think like if you don't get experience talking and coaching people, you're never gonna get it. You know, like we have to be okay to make mistakes and go into it and the mistakes is the most powerful thing. Everyone is trying to avoid making mistakes. When mistakes are where is like the gold in life, it's the mistakes. It's like when you grow the most is when you fuck up the most. That's my experience. I always love to fuck up. Everyone is so afraid to fuck it up. Like I fucking look for fucking up. And that's like the mentality for you to when you can grow the most is like when you fucking look when you like actually kind of crave to fuck up. Like I'm looking for the breaking point. Like when you go to the workout, right? Go to the gym. You don't wait like, oh, maybe if I do too much now I'm gonna rip my muscle. I'm like, no, let's find out. Let's see when the muscle rips. And then if it rips, okay, that's great. That's growth there, right?
yeah, that sounds like a good way to get injured. No.
Right?
But no, it's a good point, man. Like definitely, you gotta go hard, and it's interesting, man. One of the books I just finished reading, called The Prosperous Coach. Have you read it?
That's funny. Was it David that told you to read that? Because he told me to read that book, so I just read it and it was
Have
pretty
you
nice.
read it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
was
yeah.
this
Pretty nice.
bit right at the end of it where it says like, um, where one of the coaches, he like says like what he tells like his, because he coaches other coaches, like he tells people to, um, he tells people to go out and get as many no's as they can. And it's like, as a coach, like pitch as many proposal and like try to get as many no's. And when you start to like approach things from that point of view of like, okay, I'm just going to like approach things and trying to get as many no's as I can, all of a sudden now you're in that perfect like frame of mind where you're not caring and you're actually like craving that no, and you're like speaking your mind exactly what you want to speak. And that's like that perfect like sweet spot mentality of where you want to be in order to like be good at what you're doing.
Yeah, like I shifted a lot of my mindset as well. That book to really give me like the like I was kind of like yeah I want to do this, but like a lot of people sometimes like voices around you kind of like try to talk you out of what you think is like the right thing to do. But that book really clarified as well to me, and like the idea of like sales in coaching, like I really changed. Like I already wasn't doing that, but like instead of doing sales, what I do is like focus on giving the most powerful coaching session to that person. And then not what I found out is like now more often than not, people's like ask in the end of the call. I don't even ask them like, "Do you want to work with me?" or whatever. They just like, "So how much is your coaching?" or whatever. They are the ones asking for it, and I think that's a much more powerful way to come at it. Is like what he said really resonated with me in the book. We said like you should give 2 hours to your prospects and give them like your all, and
Mm,
like give him like the most powerful coaching session he ever had in his entire life, and like building connections with people instead of like salesy bullshit, right? And I think that really can uh, really take your business to the next level, really in the long term, really fast.
Yeah, totally, man.
Yeah, bro. I guess that we reached the an hour mark. I think it's good time. We already shared a lot of some nuggets, some good stuff here.
Definitely, man. It was great connecting with you, man, and it was good chat and got into some interesting topics, man. So thanks for having me
My
on your
pleasure.
show.
It was really great. I see you already have your own Facebook group, so whenever you want to do in your Facebook group as well, I'll be glad to do so.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Like I'll have you on for sure. I'm just like deciding on a name for mine at the moment. And yeah, I want to probably have get it up and running next week. So I'd love to have you on for sure, man.
Amazing, bro. So yeah, guys, it's a guy left now. I hope this was useful and very powerful stuff. And yeah, see you guys next time.